So hey guys, welcome back to the Anime What Ifs channel. This is a story about what if Naruto refuses to take the Chunin exams. Part 2. If you guys enjoy this what if, comment down below. And let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content. And leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And also share this video with your friends. And check out the description. And check out my playlist. So let's start the video. Chapter 8. Naruto looked at the massive expanse of land tiredly. The route to the meeting point for the Leaf contingent and the Sand contingent resided in the Land of Rivers, a barrier country between the lands of fire and wind. Nothing too interesting lay within the Land of Rivers besides several fishing villages and port towns for trade. It was also a country that had been ravaged by the Great Five Nations during the many battles of the Great Ninja Wars. The group was small, like Tsunade mentioned during the council meeting where the transition of power was formalized. Tsunade, the now 5th Hokage, was being accompanied by 2 guards. Naruto Uzumaki and Kakashi Hatake. Rare as it was for a sitting Kage to leave their lands and people, it was usually only for the most important of occasions such as a ceasefire for war. In this case, it was to avoid an all-out war and for reparations for the attack on the village hidden in the leaves and the loss of civilian life. What can we expect from this? Naruto asked out of the blue. Are they really going to give us anything for their actions? I can see them trying to say that Orochimaru was the real perpetrator of the attack. Kakashi hummed. They will need to provide something of value as they know that their military might have taken a massive hit with the death of the 4th Kazekage. While Pakura is a renowned S-class ninja, she is the only one left that is still in her prime. Naruto had never heard of Pakura and only hummed. They have medals unique to their lands, Tsunade said from in front of them. Medal? Naruto asked in a bored tone. Kakashi blinked in surprise then nodded. Oh, that's right, he said gravely as he looked into the distance. Tsunade turned back to Naruto. Don't underestimate the rarity of the metals harvested in the northern corners of the Land of Wind. Unique from anywhere else in the world. The metal known as shining iron that is then refined into ivory steel is the most coveted ore in the world. Naruto frowned. Don't tell me it's for some noble in the capital who wanted some fancy jewelry, he said with a snort. No, Tsunade answered firmly. They only want moon gems from the south. Ivory steel is something I want for the village. Oh, why? Well, they can be made into blades that are known for incredible sharpness and chakra affinity. Their rarity makes it nearly impossible to get one unless you are granted elite Jonin status as a sand ninja. Even then they are more ceremonial due to an event in the First Great Ninja War, explained Tsunade. Naruto raised an eyebrow, which was, well, started Kakashi hesitantly. My father stole one from a defeated enemy. Naruto tilted his head in thought for only a moment before his eyes shot open. He knew of the legendary White Fang of the Leaf, Tsukumo Hatake, known for his white chakra saber and its unique capabilities. Wait! You mean to tell me that the Sand Village has had access to white chakra sabers this whole time? I've only ever heard of the one used by us. Well, Kakashi hummed. Tsunade snorted. They use them, but there aren't many ninjas as prolific as Tsukumo Hatake. I've requested enough metal for 5 blades. Hopefully, in time we will produce ninjas capable of bringing out their potential once again. Naruto blinked. That was a great move. It would give the Leaf highly coveted weapons and endear the Hokage to her forces, who would chomp at the chance to wield a legendary weapon made famous by one of the most deadly ninjas ever produced by their country. I've also requested a look at Gaara of the desert. Naruto snapped his eyes towards Tsunade. I want to look at his seal as a show of good faith. I have experience with sealing jutsu and notes from Jiraiya. I'd also like for you to speak with him for obvious reasons. Tsunade shot a look towards Naruto, then his stomach, where a seal he was trying to forget about lay, then back forward. Got it. Naruto grunted out with a frown. Flashback. Just after the transfer of power council meeting, Naruto stood in front of the recently appointed 5th Hokage Tsunade Senju, who was staring at him quite intently. Kakashi, who was summoned shortly after the meeting, was leaning against the wall behind him, while Jiraiya was sitting against the window behind Sunda. Hiruzen was in a chair off to the side of the Hokage desk picking at his pipe. What do you need, old lady? Naruto asked with a frown. Didn't we just get out of a meeting? Why do we need another one? Jiraiya shook his head at his lack of respect and smirked, while the third chuckled from his place. It was quite a change from his public backing of her in the meeting. Swanda ignored it and moved on. Because there is something that you and these 3 have been ignoring or have yet to inform me of the current plan. 4 sets of eyes landed on her with varying degrees of confusion. She sighed. What are we currently planning to do with the 9 tails? Naruto grunted and turned away, while the third sighed tiredly. Having already had this conversation during the Chunin exams, Naruto isn't really interested in removing the seal placed on him by Orochimaru, he explained. Naruto snorted. Why would I? I'm hundreds of times stronger without that damn fox. Like it or not, keeping it separate from me is actually quite helpful. It's an asset. Jiraiya piped in with a frown. Naruto glared in his direction, one I couldn't hope to control. I don't know if I made it clear, but the six eyes let me understand chakra better than all of you, and that thing is beyond human control. It's pure chaotic inhuman chakra. Killer Bee of the Eight Tails did it. Kakashi added lightly. Tsunade's eyes glinted. He has been in control of his tailed beast for well over 20 years, if not more. If he can do it, I'm confident you can as well. Naruto frowned. What would I even gain? I'm confident that I'm more than strong now, and continue to grow stronger every day. Why should I rely on some beast to enhance me? Who could be so terrible that I of all people need that kind of help? He locked eyes with the third. Do you think that with a being of pure malice and chaos? Let's ignore that it's incomplete with only its young half right now. Would it be an actual asset? That I would be able to operate as anything more than a mindless beast on a battlefield? Tell me of one high-level ninja that wouldn't know how to handle such an adversary? Naruto took a deep breath as he started pacing. Let's just talk about the ones I've faced already. Orochimaru is so slippery that I think he'd poke and prod a mindless beast before running away. Kisame would enjoy the fight as he stole all of its chakra for himself, turning it into a battle of attrition that he would eventually win. Itachi has the Manjikyu Sharingan. Naruto pointed at himself. I beat Orochimaru in every confrontation so far. After a few back and forths, I tore Kisame apart. Itachi was a genuine threat, but that was only for our first fight. If we were to meet tomorrow, I'd kill him. Feeling as if he made his point, Naruto sat into the chair in front of Tsunade with a sigh. The three elder ninja had a silent conversation with a few glances before Kakashi walked forward. The Nine Tails is a part of Naruto, he said while placing a hand on Naruto's shoulder. While he tried to, if it weren't for infinity, he pulled away with a sigh. As much as you may not like it, Sensei placed the Nine Tails with you to not only protect you and the village from its rampage, but to give you the power to protect yourself. Tsunade looked at Kakashi with a tilted head. Protect him? Kakashi nodded. Well, yes. That's what I worked out at least. You think Minato didn't lose control that night? That it was the intervention of an outside party that caused the Nine Tails rampage? Jiraiya asked with a frown. He must have, or he would have tried to return it to Kushina. Jiraiya rubbed his chin. It makes sense. While beyond the point of saving for most, Kushina was a Uzumaki with a tremendous life force, even for that clan. There likely wasn't a 0% chance of saving her if he returned the Nine Tails to her quickly. So you're saying that he couldn't, or decided an infant was the better choice? Tsunade asked the two in an unsure tone. Kakashi shrugged. I don't know. All I can say is that Tsunade wouldn't make Naruto a Jinchuriki unless he truly believed he had to. I have to agree. Hiruzen added. I never believed that Minato would lose control of the Nine Tails while Kushina was giving birth. He was absent at the start of the Nine Tails rampage, protected the Hokage monument, then disappeared again. It's most curious. Jiraiya stood up suddenly. So there is someone out there that was capable of breaking through top secret barriers, overpowering Minato, escaping with Kushina, ripping the beast from her, setting it on the leaf, then fighting Minato once again. Now bear in mind this is most likely the most motivated Minato I could possibly imagine due to the situation. Yet still managed to fight him long enough that Minato felt compelled to seal the Nine Tails within Naruto instead of Kushina. Who the hell could do that? I couldn't say, Kakashi said slowly. I don't know many that could fight Sensei in the first place. Naruto started to tune out the back and forth speculation as he turned inward. If his father was as deadly as his reputation suggested, Naruto would assume that there was some embellishment due to time and idolization. Then the enemy in the dark was someone beyond Itachi and Orochimaru for sure. He'd need to think about it more. But controlling a tailed beast isn't something that can be learned by just anyone. There are only seal masters and bloodlines capable of it. If he was going to be prepared for the future enemy, not to mention whoever was bossing around powerhouses like Itachi and Kisame in the Akatsuki, then he'd need more intel. As much as it physically pained him to admit he wasn't going to get any real answers from speculation. As far as he was aware, there was only one entity that knew the truth, and he doubted it would happily divulge that information. If he was really honest, it wouldn't hurt to at the very least make contact with the Nine Tails in this case. He was sure that he could forcefully stop the slow trickle of chakra after the seal was removed if he had to. That being said, he really didn't want to have to open himself up to the beast. Every problem in his life till now could be traced back to the fox. Even not being able to use his bloodline till he was sealed showed that the fox was nothing more than a hindrance, though communicating with and relying on something were two entirely different things. He could open the seal up to at the very least speak with the beast and react from there based on its responses. But he wasn't going to follow the lead of these four. If he's gonna do it, he'd do it his way. Fine, Naruto said, suddenly interrupting the discussion. I'll open up the seal. Jiraiya perked up, but Naruto quickly shot him a look. I'm not going to use its power. I don't need it, you old perv. I just want to know what it knows. If there really is someone out there capable of all of that, I'd very much like to know. Naruto's eyes suddenly began to glow, and the weight of his chakra escaped his control for a moment. I would very much like to kill whoever it is as well. Well, that's all well and good, Naruto. But I can't have you escorting me to a diplomatic meeting with a wild card like that. Tsunade said with a frown. I just wanted to know the game plan. We will proceed with the removal of the hindering seal when we return from our mission. Fine with me. Agreed Naruto. Hiruzen stood with a groan. When the time comes, I will assist you as best I can. He offered with a smile that Naruto returned. You're too stubborn, Jiraiya moaned. Fine. It's a start. When we're back, we can start looking into connecting with the Nine Tails. Naruto, in the meantime, I want you to focus on honing your connection to your chakra. You instinctively know, but I want you to have an intimate connection with your chakra purposefully. Naruto had no idea what that meant. Back on the road to the land of rivers, present time, Naruto clenched his fist at the reminder of opening up to talk to the Nine Tails. He wasn't thrilled, but it really was his only move to learn more about that night. Listen up, Tsunade ordered as she came to a stop. The meeting point isn't much further ahead. We shouldn't expect a warm welcome. Naruto, I want you to not speak. Naruto moved to speak. No. You are the least diplomatic person here. She turned to Kakashi. Your reputation precedes you, so your presence is enough, especially if that old lady is there. Kakashi tilted his head at the mention of an old lady but didn't comment. Naruto huffed and turned away. I'll do the talking. Let's just hope nothing crazy happens, mentioned Tsunade with an impatient sigh as the meeting point came into view. Line break. Nearly 2 kilometers away from the meeting point of the Sand and Leaf, a small group of individuals gathered to plan their next move. The group consisted of 3 people, all male. The first was a younger man in his late teens. He wasn't that impressive physically, but he made up for it with his chakra, dense and vast. The second was a much older man, pushing his 60s, with a formal set of robes and a katana at his side. He was meditating in the corner of the room at the moment. The last was a well-built man. His ninja attire was form-fitting and showed off his thick muscles. He was slightly scared on his arms and neck. Curiously, his presence lacked any and all chakra, as if he was suppressing it to the point that it was invisible. The target is entering the building, said the well-built man. If we can cause a large enough distraction, then we will have an easy time of it. He turned to the young man. Hero, I want you to set explosives around the building, and on my signal ignite all of them. Then he turned to the old man. Isho, when the bombs go off, I want you to kill whoever you can in the chaos, then move towards either Kakashi Hatake or Baki. They have the highest bounties besides Naruto Uzumaki. Isho opened one eye. Are you confident in killing Naruto Uzumaki, Genzo? The intel around Infinity made it seem impossible. Such a thing isn't overcome lightly. Genzo grinned, his eyes glowing with power and malice. I'm confident that I will enjoy myself and get rich in the process. Hero now, he shouted. Hero shot off at the command, having stuck around to hear Isho's question and Genzo's answer. They would only have a small window to attack as the conversation started. Afterward, their guards were sure to go back up. Genzo smiled. He in his 10-year career as a bounty hunter had never failed. He's killed many shinobi and samurai, from younger rookies up to experienced jonin, and he was excited to make his biggest payday ever on the young brat with the 6 eyes. His hand fell into his tool pouch and pulled out a long katana. It was etched with seals, and at the end of the handle dangled a talisman. It was a sacred blade of the Uzumaki, bought off the black market for around 30 million. He was sure that he and Naruto Uzumaki would be having fun soon. The Leaf and Sand contingent made their way into the meeting hall of the massive hall located in an abandoned fortress. While nobles needed gaudy luxuries to entertain them as they sat around and talked, Ninja needed a large room to fit everyone in a neutral zone. On the Sand side were 3 people: Baki of the Sands, premier jonin, and renowned A-class ninja. Naruto would put Baki as the Asuma or Kakashi of the Sand village. Next to him were 2 women, an old woman that Tsunade snorted at when their eyes met while the old woman huffed. Next to her was a much younger woman who had orange and green hair. Her torso was covered in bandages, and she wore a loose open kimono over her shoulders. Naruto heard that she didn't often leave the village after a failed assassination attempt years ago. The elders of the village didn't want to risk losing her and her bloodline. The old bat is Lady Chiyo, a renowned puppet master, whispered Tsunade. The younger woman is Pakura. Naruto took in the 2 women. Either of them had all that impressive chakra signatures. Chiyo's chakra flowed much slower than he'd seen most ninja, but it likely came with the impressive chakra control from decades of puppetry. Pakura's chakra gave off the impression of heat, like the haze in the air from a hot summer's day. Overall, he would say that while impressive by the average, he didn't think either of them were all that threatening, to him at least. Gaara sauntered in from the rear, looking blankly around the room before offering a small, nearly imperceptible nod to Naruto, who smirked back. The 7 ninjas gathered around a large table and took their seats. Naruto sat to Tsunade's right while Kakashi took the left. Neither of the males looked all that interested or seemed to really be paying attention, while Tsunade was staring intently at the 4 sand ninjas in front of them. "Thank you all for making the trip. Let us begin," started Tsunade. "I and the Leaf are fully ready to commit to a ceasefire and re-engage in our mutually beneficial inter-country friendship should the Sand provide the materials requested as recompense for the attack." Naruto had to give it to the old woman. She certainly didn't waste time on pleasantries. Not that it would be genuine. Leave it to the nobles who liked their honeyed words and lies and politics. Ninjas weren't the type to engage in negotiations that held slippery words and half-truths for matters like this. They would just kill each other if they felt they needed to, or at least that was Naruto's thought. He did not need to lie, he was strong. Instead of the elder of the Sands Chio, it was Pakura who spoke up. "The Sand extends our sincerest apologies for the events of the invasion." Her words were smooth and she gave a slight bow to Tsunade. She pulled out a scroll. "The requested materials are sealed within. I would like to propose a recalibration of the mission distribution between our lands." Naruto sighed and tuned the rest of the conversation out. It sounded like a lot of honeyed words to explain that the Leaf was taking nearly 60% of the Sand's missions due to the nobles' faith in their village plummeting. Old Man Third briefed him that he was expecting the Sand to come to them in the coming years due to their economic issues as a result. Naruto didn't really care that much. It seemed that the 4th Kazekage ruled with an iron fist and didn't deliver results that promoted faith in his lord. Essentially, it was their own damn fault. "I suppose the exchange is acceptable." Pakura agreed with a bow. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. "Suppose? I'm doing this in the interest of peace. Not because I believe we owe it to your village. The fall in faith from your capital was due to your Kaiga's actions, not ours, and he is rotting in the desert." To Naruto's shock, it was Gaara that interjected to the surprise of the other Sand ninja. "Our village suffered due to my imbalance, and the 4th's lack of forethought regarding his actions. We will recover our strength and image if given the opportunity." Tsunade turned to Gaara. "You feel you've recovered from a low-powered if not broken seal?" she asked. "Yes, the elders have since strengthened my seal and I've managed to recover much of my mind as a result." "Naruto?" Tsunade asked, turning to him. With a sigh, he hooked a finger around his glasses and peered into Gaara with his 6 eyes. The Sand ninja felt the hairs on the back of the neck stand up at the sight of the bloodline. "Yeah, would you look at that, Gaara? You managed to calm that chakra of yours. I'd say you could be a competent ninja now," Naruto said with a grin. "Honestly, if you are fully in control of yourself, I'd say you're stronger than the old woman over there, and your sensei." Tsunade's head snapped to him with a glare. "Naruto!" she snapped. Kakashi just looked upwards to hide his exasperation, knowing that he was going to get an earful for Naruto's actions. He was technically still his sensei, and Naruto's actions reflected on him. Despite Naruto being uncontrollable now, Chio snorted in a rather undignified manner. "The young Spitfire of the Leaf I've heard so much about. Son of the 4th and wielder of a new ocular jutsu. I'm sure your arrogance will lead you to an early grave like all the cocked bloodline wielders." She snarked back. "Lady Chio!" snapped a shocked Pakura. Baki, who was going ignored by the room, looked at the ceiling in exhaustion. He was hoping that the completely expected breakdown of peaceful talks wouldn't get him killed. Naruto was about to retort, but Gaara interrupted. "Naruto Uzumaki, I have to thank you," he said, getting the room to turn to him in surprise. None more so than Naruto, who didn't recall doing anything for the redhead. "Thanks to the 4th, I was stuck being an attack dog for my village, unable to live. I would have destroyed myself in the attack if you hadn't stopped me. I've since been able to reconnect with my siblings and become the ninja I should have been," continued Gaara with a monotone voice, though his eyes had a slight warmth to them. "I will endeavor to make sure that the Sand Village is a capable part of our mutual friendship. Should the Leaf need assistance, I will offer my help." No one knew what to say to that. Pakura could only rub her face tiredly. She had lost any and all control over her side of this, and wanted just to go home. Chio looked like she wanted to throttle the boy, and Baki had checked out already. Tsunade smiled at the boy. "The Leaf will do the same. I'm not ignorant of Orochimaru's manipulations. As you held up your end of the ceasefire, the Leaf will continue this allyship." As the leaders of the 2 villages continued to talk about the alliance, Naruto felt something at the edge of his senses. He didn't know what it was, but he was suddenly on edge. Naruto threw his glasses away, shot between the group, and held up a single-handed ram's seal. Both sides of the table shouted in shock at his actions, but he ignored them and flared out his infinity to encompass all of them. It wasn't a moment too soon when the entire room erupted in a ball of flames. He was sure that it was something other than pure explosive notes. It must be some sort of bomb or S-rank, as Naruto could feel the force behind the explosion. This us or them? Naruto asked the shell-shocked group. Well, he directed it to Tsunade, who looked up at him in shock, then turned to the sand ninja, who were equally as shocked. Ah, so someone else. Got it. As the flames died out, Naruto pulled Infinity back into himself and relaxed. He was a bit annoyed that he had to push him to that extent to protect everyone. Infinity covering that much gave him a bit of a headache, so he needed to tone it back for a few seconds. It was a serious pain in the neck. Though he was glad he did it, he didn't think it would be good for the village if the group from the sand died while meeting them in a secluded place under the guise of peace talks. The war would certainly continue. Naruto turned around to Tsunade. I guess someone. He stopped talking to cough up a glob of blood and looked down at an ornate-looking katana. Naruto! Shouted Tsunade, and Kakashi as a person emerged from behind Naruto holding the long katana sticking through his chest. Naruto turned to look into the man's eye. Smart getting me right after that. I didn't even see you, he said while his eyes flared with power. The man grinned. Yeah, lots of juicy intel about those eyes hit the black market. Lots of interest parties want you dead, and I want that payday. Before Kakashi or Tsunade could move to help, two more people blurred into the room, a young man and an older one. From the opposite side of the room, dozens of ninjas rushed into the room and went to overwhelm the sand and leaf ninjas. The man behind Naruto yanked out the sword and grabbed him by the back of the head before throwing him through the wall out of the room. Kakashi wanted to help, but the older man, dressed in formal robes, stood in his way wielding an aged katana. Kakashi Hatake, you will be facing me. Isho of the False Moon. Tsunade smashed her fist into one of the many ninjas only for it to burst into flame, burning her hand. Another jumped onto her and exploded. However, from the smoke a smoldering chair remained, showing a substitution. The young man flashed through several seals in a blur before a dozen more clones sprung into existence, and rushed after the sand and leaf ninja. Tsunade grabbed the real one by the throat. Ah, I recognize you. Hero of the Hidden Flame. You're worth quite a lot. She clenched her fist to snap his neck, but Hero suddenly erupted into a ball of white-hot flames, causing Tsunade to scream out in pain. Another hero emerged from the back of the room. As a master of clones and deception, did you think I didn't know how to make a clone look like the real one? Do you think I'm the real one? Do you think I'm even in this part of the castle? All this was asked with a malicious grin on his face as Tsunade silently healed her arm and side of the burns. Let's play Tsunade of the Sannin, he shouted before his body exploded, filling the room with white-hot flames. Chapter 9. Jiraiya mulled over a recent intel report. The Land of Sound was a vast and seemingly barren country. But what lay beneath were dozens of underground labyrinths home to hideouts, outposts, and full-on camps for Orochimaru's forces. ANBU's Squad Alpha estimated the forces under Orochimaru's control numbered just under 2,000, which was a massive force to be loyal to an international criminal. However, they weren't exactly of high quality. Most of them were barely trained bandits, and various other missing nin who followed Orochimaru in hopes of a stable environment without looking over their shoulders. Jiraiya predicted that if they killed the snake, over 90% would abandon the country and go back to being solo criminals. Which meant if they killed his old teammate, then they could essentially call it a job well done and go home. Therein lay the problem. Finding Orochimaru was something of a task he'd given himself in the last decade with no success beyond vague tracks that lead nowhere. His plan at the moment was to split the Alpha Squad into 4 groups of 5 operatives and have them strike at the north, south, east, and west corners and try to drive the forces further into the country to force them into a smaller set of locations. If the reports were correct, then it was working well so far. They had destroyed 7 bases and nearly 200 of Orochimaru's ninja. But they hadn't run into any of the elites on their list. None he would even classify as a jonin. If the intel was correct, Orochimaru has around a dozen or so elite ninjas he personally trained under his command. So the tough part of the mission hadn't even started yet. This is going to turn out like any mission I've had about my old teammate. More trouble than it's worth. I hope Tsunade and Naruto are having a better time. Jiraiya thought with a groan. Naruto was not having a great time. If there was one thing that annoyed him these days, it was idiots who were full of themselves. In retrospect, he had been one of said idiots. But he wasn't one anymore, the guy in front of him. He really didn't even bother to pay attention when he was told the guy's name was the one who got a lucky shot, and after he thwarted a massive surprise attack, everyone at this meeting owed him for that, with a sword that was doing things that really should be possible. The guy was now looking at him like he was fresh prey to be devoured, all the while Naruto healed himself of the stab wound. It was a good stab, but nothing he couldn't recover from. Yes, Naruto decided, the one thing that really annoyed him these days was idiots like the guy in front of him, who was laughing while waving around some fancy katana like he was tough. The man blitzed forward, speeds going well above a normal jonin, and unleashed a series of slashes that Naruto was just able to weave around. Every movement from the man was perfectly executed. Naruto would have to admit that in terms of raw physicality, this man was superior to most that he'd encountered. Naruto threw a punch that was weaved around and countered with a kick. The blonde ducked, grabbed the extended leg and tossed the man away. There was barely an impact as the man maneuvered midair to recover and blast off from the ground as soon as he touched. It was thanks to the 6 eyes that Naruto was able to follow up the series of movements as the man tried to disorient him by jumping around at super speeds. If he hadn't fought against Itachi Uchiha a few weeks ago, Naruto would have likely been unprepared for such an opponent, but as it were, an incoming slash to the neck was ducked under, and in response, a fist was ruthlessly smashed into the man's ribs, sending him tumbling away. Naruto had fought better. The man, despite taking such a blow, was on his feet and twirling his sword around like he'd accomplished something. Naruto wasn't dumb enough to let something that had such a strange lack of presence touch him. The guy likely thought he was over-reliant on infinity. It's poetic, really. The man mused, which grabbed Naruto's attention. This is a sacred sword of the Uzumaki clan after all, and it'll kill the last known survivor. Naruto looked at the sword lamely. Makes sense, my family produced that thing, not this moron. Thanks for returning it for me, Naruto said with a smile before warping out of sight. The man's eyes widened in shock before instinctually swinging the blade towards his blind spot. Naruto rolled his eyes as he ducked under the wild swing and pushed a Rasengan into the man's rib cage, blasting him into a wall and killing him. Whoever you were. You were not worth the headache, Naruto said as he picked up the katana. As soon as his hands touched it, he felt like the sword gave off a positive hum as his chakra settled into the steel of the blade. Nice to meet ya, he said to the blade with a grin. If Kakashi were being honest, he was happy that the fighting kicked off. He was able to do what he did best. Kill some fool that attacked his fellow ninja, and more importantly not sit around listening to political back and forths. The older man in front of him was a capable combatant, easily wielded a katana with frightening ability, and his chakra control was calmer than most he'd seen. That being said, the old man was very rigid in his attacks, and the Sharingan allowed him to mostly avoid anything dangerous, but his attacks were similarly avoided. So it was something of a stalemate. You are a capable killer, Hatake. However, your stolen IC's all but what matters, the old man said as he sheathed his blade once more. Kakashi breathed in slowly. Is that so? He asked lightly while molding chakra internally. Yes. As soon as the words left the old man's mouth, he blurred forward. Kakashi moved to deflect the incoming attack, but at the very last moment, the man shot off to the side and swung his blade in a wide arc, sending a chakra slash towards him. Kakashi managed to jump out of the way and was forced to use a lightning-enhanced kunai to stop the follow-up. Kakashi noticed that he was bleeding from his arm and frowned. He didn't see that. When did he get cut? His arm slowly started to numb from the blood loss, but nothing that would hinder him immediately. That being said, he needed to finish sooner rather than later. The back and forth continued for a while. The more that Kakashi tried to take in the old man's fighting style with his Sharingan, the more he was cut at random times. There had to be some sort of trick. Kakashi weaved through a dozen hand seals before breathing out a massive fireball that flew towards the old man at blistering speeds. Calmly and without fuss, the old man sheathed his sword before using a quick draw technique laced with dense chakra to sever the incoming fireball. The slash of chakra continued forward towards Kakashi, who was already moving. Looking down, Kakashi was once again bleeding from his chest from the incoming attack. He didn't see it, but he was getting the feeling he knew what was happening. Weaving more hand seals, Kakashi condensed lightning-natured chakra around his right hand in his signature, the lightning blade. The crackling and zapping noises filled the immediate area. The old man smirked at the sight and resheathed his blade. Kakashi shot forward at blinding speed, his movement further enhanced by his. The old man used another quick draw technique towards the incoming Kakashi, who at the last moment blurred even faster while swiping his lightning blade at the incoming attack. An explosion of chakra sent a shockwave of force outward from the epicenter of the clash. Kakashi gritted his teeth, pushed even more chakra into his, and after even more of a struggle he cut through the attack while his arm was sporting another slash. Kakashi released his. Interesting. I've yet to encounter someone capable of such a feat beyond the third Hokage. The old man tilted his head. Oh yeah? What have you learned? He asked while resheathing his blade. I don't know how you do it, but you are molding two types of chakra at the same time. An invisible blade of wind and behind it a very large and flashy chakra blade. My eye is drawn to the large flashy while the small wind blade cuts into me before the chakra slash even reaches me. Very good, but does knowing help you overcome it? Kakashi cracked his neck. Oh, very much so. Without a moment's hesitation, Kakashi shot forward. The old man repeated his quick draw, but this time, as soon as the blade was about to leave the sheath, Kakashi dove out of the way and bounced off the wall at an angle. The old man's first slash was missed, and he tried to repeat the attack, but before he could even resheath his blade, the cold steel of a kunai entered his neck. Kakashi gazed down at the dead old man dispassionately. Issho of the false moon, what an interesting technique. Tsunade could say without hesitation that she was more angry at this moment than she'd been in 15 years. The little shit of a ninja attacking her was a prodigy with clones, and she has wrung his neck perhaps 57 times, and each one has been one type of clone or another. The brat wasn't even that impressive at anything but essentially stall tactics. No injury she'd received has taken more than simple healing to fix. I'm surprised a legendary ninja and Kage can't tell a clone from a genuine person. Hero of the Hidden Flame commented lightly from his place on the ceiling. Want a hint? Tsunade breathed out an angry sigh and gazed up at Hero. I'm going to enjoy killing you, she said darkly. Two heroes rushed her from her left and right. Tsunade didn't even acknowledge them. She stomped the ground and cracked the earth beneath her feet, shaking the entire area. From there she kicked two rocks, one at each close, which blasted through their skulls before they could even try to dodge. From both clones came an explosion of fire. Good job. That's two more. Tsunade glared at the roof before throwing a massive rock at the observing clone. Like she expected, the rock hit the clone on the roof and burst into flame upon its death. The sounds of fighting were heard in the distance. It would seem that the contingent from the sand was engaging the forces brought to bear by these mercenaries. She hoped that if the real hero was out there he would die soon. She was getting tired of killing clones. 5 more clones rushed towards Tsunade, who only sighed and met them with her fists wreathed in dense chakra. Fire burst into life with each hit. Naruto cut his way through the mercenaries that attacked them. The Uzumaki blade sang with joy with each kill. He wasn't sure how he felt using a tool that had an echo of a personality, but at the moment the sword made everything a bit easier and quicker. In the distance, he saw a couple of puppets cutting their way through ninja, while in another corner blood-red flames turned everything to ash. Naruto's eyes told him that the flames were a perfect combination of fire and wind chakra, feeding and enhancing each other. Pakura of the Scorching Sun indeed. Naruto was confident that Pakura would be a tough opponent for him if he didn't have infinity. She was so hot that being near them for too long would likely cause dehydration and overheating. Not to mention the damage of actually touching her flames. What a powerful bloodline. Then there were the floating grains of sand flying everywhere and far in the distance, and what looked to be a whirlwind of sand flaring up every few seconds. Gaara wasn't playing around, it would seem. Naruto had to acknowledge the level of growth that the redhead had shown. He'd improved his control quite a bit ever since the invasion. Or was it that he was more sane and more in control of himself? Whichever it was, Naruto was honestly impressed. He wished his teammates were that quick on the uptake. Perhaps then they'd be able to come on missions with him. Naruto took a deep breath. Let's just cut to the chase. They'd have to sacrifice infinity, as the chakra structure couldn't be maintained with the complex force of the barrier. But for ninjas like these, he doubted they'd need it. Naruto's 6 eyes flared and he molded chakra into a familiar hand seal. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. It felt good to call that out again. A couple of months of focusing on his new fighting style didn't mean he didn't appreciate the good old shadow clone. 24 clones popped into existence in front of him. He made that many with the sole purpose that all of them would have enough chakra to fire off a red if needed, though again he doubted they'd need it. Curiously, the sword in his hand didn't get copied into the clones. We'll have to look at you a bit closer when we get home, Naruto muttered to the blade, which again felt like it was humming happily. His chakra wasn't being suppressed by the blade or absorbed, rather ambient chakra around the blade was being absorbed. Curious. Without a word, all of his clones shot out toward different battlefields, while he went back inside to see if Kakashi or Tsunade needed any help. Baki of the Sand Village wasn't struggling with the opposition. There were many, but none of such quality to make him sweat. However, it only took a lucky kunai to kill you, so he had been on high alert for the last 20 minutes of fighting, something that was starting to get to him. 3 ninjas in front of him charged at him with various weapons, none of which looked to be with skill greater than a chunin, but Baki met them with a wind blade nonetheless. A simple slash here or there caused blood and body parts to fly into the air. He turned and saw even more ninjas rushing towards him. He had to have killed around 15 mercenaries at this point. How many were sent to this meeting point and by whom? Before the incoming ninja could reach him, they were taken off their feet by a blue blur. Baki could barely keep up with the attacks, but after a blink, the enemy ninjas were on the ground, broken and bloody. I'll take care of the rest, Naruto said before speeding off. Baki looked around and noticed that all the observing ninjas were all dead. With that, he took a seat and let out a sigh. Uzumaki must have cut them down while he was focused on the 3 from earlier. Chio, puppet master of the sand, and Pakura of the Scorching Suns weren't getting tired physically, but they were beginning to be fed up with all the mercenaries they were constantly having to fight. Seeing as how most if not all of them were below Jonin, that meant that the enemy's target was the Leaf, or more specifically Naruto Uzumaki of the Leaf. "You're not that bad for an old lady," commented a clone of Naruto with a grin on his face. 2 Naruto clones were a hurricane, literally tearing through the surrounding attackers with ruthless hand-to-hand. A Rasengan would periodically flash into existence for a moment, before dying out as the clones worked together perfectly and silently. Chio could say, without a shadow of a doubt, that the boy in front of her was truly terrifying. A couple of clones all with chakra beyond the average Jonin in them, with the taijutsu of an elite ninja and like the Rasengan at their disposal. The instinct of wariness welled up within her as she saw something that reminded her of what she'd come across years ago when Hiruzen Sarutobi shook the battlefields after releasing his horrifyingly dense chakra during the First and Second Wars. Someone that stood atop the peak of the ninja world. Naruto Uzumaki was deemed S-class, but she was starting to see the makings of something more. Something not seen for a long time. The balance of the world may in fact be shifting because of the boy in front of her. She could feel it in her bones. If the sand didn't ally itself with Naruto, they would be annihilated if their paths crossed on the battlefield. After all, at 13 he was this powerful. Where would he be in a few years of mastering those eyes? She didn't think anyone was excited to find out. "You should have seen me 20 years ago. I gave that Hokage of yours quite the trouble on the battlefield," she responded to the cheeky twerp. "I don't doubt it. I can tell you have some highly experienced people behind you. Take a load off, I'm practically done here. Most of the enemies are dead. Where is the real you?" "Inside dealing with a clone," he responded with a laugh. "He's kind of a pain in the ass, isn't he?" mused Naruto as he and Tsunade looked at all the clones in the room grinning down at them. "I truly want to crush his skull," gritted out Tsunade. "He's looking at us like he has any sort of chance of winning," laughed Naruto. The group of fools that attacked them seemed to have vastly overestimated themselves. 20 more clones attacked the duo. Naruto held a hand up and molded his chakra into a hyperdense ball that he then changed nature into his chakra enhancement jutsu, blue. But unlike before, he didn't try to refine it to a point in space far away like with the mutant monsters Orochimaru sent after him. Or did he attract space to himself like with Itachi? No. This time he made a hyperdense orb of blue that he then fully activated a meter from his hand. Immediately after activation, the entire room was devastated as it tore itself apart, and everything was attracted to the orb like a black hole. Naruto grinned ferally as he moved the orb further towards a clone in the back. The one on the roof that Tsunade suspected was the real one burst into flame that was then pulled into the orb. The dozens of others followed suit as flames were dragged into the fiery blue orb of destruction. The one in the back that Naruto's 6 eyes told him was the real one was pulled off his feet towards the orb. Hero of the hidden flame screamed as he was crushed into nothingness as soon as he touched the orb. The orb then immediately died out. "Yay! That's it, all finished up. Hey old lady, can we finish up here so I can go home?" he asked while pulling his sunglasses back on. All his clones dispelled, giving him memories of all the battles he assisted with. A moment later Kakashi and a clone warped into the room. Kakashi looked around surprised for a moment, then almost stumbled over to them. "That felt weird. I thought you could only warp to places you can see," Kakashi mentioned as he walked up, seemingly ignoring the devastated area. Naruto smiled. "Yeah, I can, but a clone can warp back to me. Though it seems it killed itself doing so," he said as he looked off. "Well, now that the nonsense is over, we can finally finish up here," Tsunade mentioned. After a while, the sand group made their way into the devastated building. Tsunade and Pakura were insistent on finishing up the conversation and negotiations. Naruto had exactly zero interest in the two women negotiating about reparations for the stupid invasion. No, he wanted to chat with Gaara while everyone was distracted. The redhead was gazing off into the distance. Any sign that he was just attacked by dozens of bounty hunters wasn't apparent. Naruto grinned as he sauntered up. Gaara almost immediately noticed his approach and met his gaze emotionlessly. "So, it seems that things have been good for you since the invasion," he mentioned as he noticed Gaara's seemingly lack of insanity. "I hope the idiots in charge of the sand weren't clamoring to start using you as a weapon or seeking to connect with you." Gaara blinked slowly. "The elders of my village have expressed their version of regrets for the circumstances of my birth and upbringing. My time has been spent with my siblings. Though Tamari rarely lets me out of sight if we are both in the village." "Good, I was worried those washi types would go back to using you, or worse, now that you have your mind in working order," Naruto mentioned happily. Gaara again blinked slowly. "Yes? I did enjoy soaking my sand in the blood of those that irritated me," he said quietly. "You still want to do that, don't you? Every day?" Naruto laughed. "The fact that you don't means you're as normal as any of us these days. I mean, I don't have much patience for annoying people anymore. At least those with ill intent. The higher-ups in my village are pretty annoying and full of themselves. I take it you two have to deal with empty platitudes due to your strength. Oh yeah, before my eyes awakened I was ignored and tossed aside like garbage. Now I'm the guy they all want in their corner. Makes me sick that people who wouldn't even take the effort to spit on me now want to be my best friend. Gaara nodded. Assassins were sent by my father and a few of the higher-ups after me since I was young to train me or kill me. They now speak of making me the next Kazekage. Naruto turned to Gaara in surprise. Really? It is something of a goal of mine to be Hokage. Maybe someday in the future you and I will meet wearing those fancy hats. I would very much like that. Gaara said with a small smile. It's thanks to you I was able to reconnect with my siblings. Naruto waved off the sentiment. I don't kill innocent people that are innocent. Despite your temperament at the time, I know you were as much a victim as anyone. Trust me, I understand. He finished quietly. Gaara didn't have a response to that. The two merely enjoyed the silence as the two women finish up the logistics of the renewed alliance and reparations owed to the Leaf. Sasuke Uchiha didn't think his life would change so drastically in a couple of months. Before the Chunin exams, he was a rising rookie that was growing slowly but steadily with his team. A girl with potential she'd never realize as she was too focused on him to train, and the fool with the determination to go the distance and the grace and talent to go nowhere. He had somehow become friends with them. To his everlasting shock, Naruto had become someone he'd almost given his life for in Wave. He didn't think he'd ever do such a thing for anyone ever since Itachi. Now, Naruto wielded some all-powerful never-seen-before ocular jutsu. Sakura was training diligently every single day with tips from Naruto, Kakashi and even Jiraiya of the fucking Sannin. She was now stronger than he was when they started the exams. Sasuke looked down as his burned hands with a tired sigh. He'd overdone his training today once again. He had already started experimenting with variations of his Chidori. In Kakashi's own words, he was beyond most Chunin at this point, and it was all thanks to Naruto's training and off-handed comments. Your chakra control is so bad I'm surprised you can mold. Try building up the whole amount first. You're not good enough to multitask yet. Now Sasuke was able to control his chakra enough to gather the necessary amount for an all-at-once then activate almost immediately. What sounded like a longer method was actually far faster, and he was getting better at removing unnecessary waste from him with every session. Why are you building chakra in your core? You punch with your stomach or something? His chakra enhancement body was now far easier and more potent he even considered. Sasuke, he was broken from his thoughts by a rapidly approaching Sakura. Before he would be a bit annoyed by her calling out to him like this, but now he knew he wasn't about to be asked out to dinner. The Jonin commander wants the two of us to be at the mission desk tomorrow. Apparently Team 7 has an assignment, she said happily. He was pleased to see some normalcy return and a team mission coming up. But Kakashi and Naruto aren't here. She nodded. Right, they're due back today. Sasuke hummed, then I wondered what this mission would entail. Naruto and Kakashi aren't exactly someone the village would waste on a C rank anymore. Most of the elites were on back-to-back missions as a show of strength after the invasion. Yeah, I think it may have to do with the sound. I think we may be sent to help out Lord Jiraiya, she whispered. Kakashi-sensei is one of the best trackers the Leaf has, and Naruto. Besides Lord Jiraiya and Lady Hokage, he's the only one who could kill the snake. The both of them were still having trouble wrapping their head around the complete shift in dynamic their team had undergone. Especially around the moronic blonde. Sasuke rubbed his face. Well then I suppose we should get some rest. If we're going on a mission like this it's going to be worse than Wave. Neither of them forgot their first foray into the real world. Sakura smiled. I won't be useless this time. She swore with a clenched fist. I've made some serious improvements, and I'm going to have your back, she said with a smile. Sasuke, to his own surprise, returned the smile easily, and The moment was ruined by Sakura's full-body blush at Sasuke's smile. Sasuke mumbled as Sakura turned away and started dancing in place before speeding off. Maybe things haven't changed all that much after all, he said with a snort. Chapter 10. Naruto smiled as the gates to his home village were finally within sight. The mission to escort the old bat to talk with the sand contingent was something he was eager to put behind him and not think about for a while. Since the invasion 2 months ago, Naruto has been active non-stop. He'd been training non-stop in his free time, worrying about the old man, training with his team. Then there was the Tanzuka Hills fiasco, then this mission. After all that, Naruto was ready for some rest and relaxation. He could already taste the ramen calling his name. Naruto! Shouted Tsunade with a ticking eyebrow. Naruto blinked and turned to her. Sorry I wasn't listening, he admitted sheepishly. The Hokage sighed. I'm aware, she said slowly. I want you to report to my office first thing in the morning. Come on, he whined. I can't have a single day off. Tsunade had the audacity to smile. No, she said before body flicking away. Naruto, whose eyes could follow the movements, only felt even more irritated by the pleased smile she wore as she went her way. He then turned to Kakashi, who was staring absently at a passing cloud. Thanks for the help, sensei, he shouted in exasperation. Kakashi turned to him slowly. Oh, you missed it when she told me that I was to report first thing as well, he responded happily. Get used to being important. It's never as fun as it seems, he chirped before leaving as well. Naruto entered the village and glared at the gate guards that had the gall to ask for his papers. Their response was to yelp and hide behind their desk as he made his way into the village. He was getting his damn ramen. Oh, you're even more of a cutie, squealed Ayam as she rubbed her cheek on Naruto's. It's been so long since you came by. I'd heard you changed, but not this much. As soon as he walked in, she giggled at his new look. Long blonde hair no longer held up by his headband, and his bright otherworldly 6 eyes that seemingly helped the sky within them. She'd found him adorable. Naruto, who was completely fine ignoring her actions as he put down his 7th bowl of ramen, hummed at her words. Yeah, sorry. This is the last place I want to avoid, you know. We know, kid. Tucci, ramen chef extraordinaire, said as he whipped up another 5 helpings of noodles. Though I felt your absence in my wallet, he said with a laugh. Naruto snorted. I'm sure you did. Keep them coming, he cheered as he finished his bowl. So any fun missions you can tell us about? Asked Ayam, who'd finally finished hugging him. Naruto frowned. Well, fun isn't the word I'd use. More chaotic and wild. I did fight Orochimaru for a bit, and Itachi Uchiha, he said with a shrug. Not exactly the same kind of fun he had described some of his others with his team. Ayam paled at the names. Even a civilian like her knew of such infamous individuals. To think the small boy she considered a little brother was going against such monsters. Are you sure you're okay? She asked with worry. Naruto waved her off. I'm fine, he said before looking at her. I'm strong. Neither Tucci nor Ayam could really say anything about that. Both of them had heard the rumors, not to mention the heavy weight of Naruto's presence that even they could feel in the air. It was a stark change from the happy-go-lucky aura Naruto had before. Naruto continued to eat ramen for a while. A few people came in to order food, then would leave. By the time Naruto was on his 9th bowl, a familiar trio entered the stall. Yoo-hoo! Called Ino as she entered the stall with the rest of Team 10. Look who it is! Naruto, we haven't seen you since the exams. What have you been doing? As normal, Ino sought information that would satiate her curiosity without hesitation. Beside her, Choji hurriedly ordered food while Shikamaru sighed at Ino's pushy nature. Naruto didn't seem to mind. I've been on missions. I likely have another one tomorrow, he said between slurps of noodles. You? He asked absent-mindedly. Ino perked up at the chance to talk. Oh, you know. We've been working on border missions, or just escort missions around the Land of Fire. Team 10 has been in high demand lately. I bet Shikamaru had a good showing, Naruto said around a mouthful of pork. Shikamaru groaned. You're not kidding. I thought losing would get people off my case. Everyone with sense knows you could have won the match. Especially the blonde you fought, Naruto said with a snort. Ino turned to glare at Shikamaru. You could have won the match? She asked incredulously. Naruto laughed. Like I said. Shikamaru smirked. Well, it doesn't matter. I was promoted to Chunin anyway. Asuma-sensei has been running us ragged between missions. Apparently we're ready for real training, he said with a roll of his eyes. Naruto nodded. Good. I don't want you 3 to stay so weak. It wouldn't be good. Also, you were promoted before me, he said with a hum. I wonder if they're ever going to promote me? It wasn't something Naruto really cared about anymore. Between the mission to get Tsunade, then the escort mission, and just his general worry about the old man before that, he just didn't really think about his rank. He did what he wanted anyway. Shikamaru turned to him in surprise. You weren't promoted? Naruto shook his head. No one said I was, not that I really care. I'm sure it's just a formality at this point. You're way too strong to be a genin, Choji added around a mouthful of ramen. Again Naruto only shrugged. Yeah, but the old lady may hold off just to annoy me. Anyway, Ino said, getting attention back on her, are you going to talk about these new eyes of yours? My dad won't tell me anything and I'm too curious how you went from loser to this. Naruto glared her way, getting a flinch from everyone in that direction. I wasn't a loser. After your showing in the exams, I'm sure I would have kicked any of your asses without them. The 6 eyes gives me perfect understanding and control of chakra. Shikamaru wisely ignored the first half of Naruto's statement. It was irrelevant at this point. That's very powerful, but isn't that similar to the Hyuga or Uchiha bloodlines? Perhaps you have a derivative of theirs? Who knows? Though I can't copy things I see like Saskew, and I can't see through walls or in a near 360-degree field of vision. Naruto said with a shrug, but don't underestimate the power of chakra control. Ino seemed unconvinced, so that's really it? I mean, if that's the case, Sasuke should be able to go even further since he can do what you said and more. She finished with a satisfied smile. I was worried the world was really ending if your stock was higher than his. Naruto laughed. Sasuke isn't surpassing me anytime soon. I mean, I was kicking Itachi's ass on my last mission. Though. Sasuke isn't really using his full potential. Too many hang-ups in that head. I mean, even now he could be a level or two higher if he just let go of all that crap. He was sure that Sasuke could give some weaker Jonin a run for their money if he let go of his baggage and just moved, but as it were, interesting. An older male voice said from behind them. Naruto turned to see Asuma Sarutobi and Kurenai Yuhi enter the stall. Kurenai was looking at him incredulously, likely having heard his statement, and didn't fully believe him. You expect us to believe you took on Itachi Uchiha? Kurenai asked with a raised eyebrow as she and Asuma took their seats at the stall. Naruto rolled his eyes. I don't care what you believe. He then thanked Tucci for his 11th bowl of ramen. He didn't expect so many people to show up at the stall while he was enjoying his ramen time. Now he had people asking him all these questions. He had like half a day off and it was stuck with people grilling him. Maybe Kakashi-sensei had a point hiding from everyone. Well, strong or not, it's hard to believe that someone that graduated from the academy not even a year ago is at that level. Kurenai said with a shake of her head. It's that lack of imagination that'll keep you so weak. Naruto said offhandedly. Honestly, I'm shocked at the level of the Jonin in the village. Outside of Guy and Kakashi, most of you are honestly far weaker than you should be. Asuma narrowed his eyes at him while Team 10 watched wide-eyed at the exchange. Maybe you should take it easy. S-class or not, that doesn't make you invincible. Remember, you're still quite inexperienced. Naruto shrugged as he finished wolfing down his last bowl of ramen, just calling it like I see it. Don't like it? Get stronger. It's not that complicated. See ya around. With a quick set of seals, he warped back to his apartment, leaving a stunned audience at Ichiraku Ramen. Naruto landed in his mess of a living room and smiled. His little anchor seal he placed on the floor. Little may have been an understatement. It covered the entire floor. He'd put it up before his mission to get Tsunade as insurance in case he needed to rush them back. It was a sort of beacon for his warp that he should be able to lock onto from anywhere. Unlike his father's, the warp anchor couldn't really be miniaturized or sealed within itself like the Jutsu Shiki for the Flying Thunder God. Jiraiya said the actual seal was a square meter in size before his father and mother sealed it in on itself, something Jiraiya still didn't understand and he didn't bother trying to. Hopefully soon he'll overcome his ability to only warp within eyesight. For now though, this was enough. Naruto walked into Tsunade's office right on time for their meeting. Inside, much like he expected, was his whole team, the old man, and Shikaku Nara. Everyone was standing around idly chatting about something. Well, at least your tendencies haven't rubbed off on him too bad. Swanda grumbled to a sheepish Kakashi. His team rolled their eyes at the comment. While Shikaku and the third looked amused, Naruto frowned. I'm right on time, Grandma, he said flatly. Tsunade glared at him. A shinobi of your standing should arrive 10 minutes early, she declared imperiously. Now you're just being ridiculous, Naruto said tiredly. What's the mission? Why am I here if you got Kakashi-sensei going? Why can't I have a day off? He was still a bit ticked off about the back-to-back-to-back missions. This better be something good. We're in trying times, Naruto, the third said kindly. Your abilities are going to be in very high demand until things settle. I don't get a day off, so you don't either, brat, Tsunade said right after with a smirk. You and the old perv put me in this seat, so that's the tax. Many in the room not used to working with her directly were shocked at their new Hokage's personality. It was far different than her reputation would lead you to believe. I hate it here. I want a vacation, whined Naruto childishly. The third chuckled at his response while Tsunade grinned, both enjoying this for different reasons. Sasuke, Kakashi, and Shikaku watched uncomfortably as Naruto acted like himself to the two highest authorities in the village. None of them had the balls to talk back to their superiors in such a way. Even Sasuke, who was the least formal of them, was cringing a bit. Sakura, however, shouted Naruto as he rubbed his head. The hell was that? Act right, shouted Sakura after smacking the hell out of his head. Lady Hokage specifically asked for Team 7. Let's show her that we are the team for the job. My apologies, Lord Third, Lady Hokage, she said with a bow. I don't need to prove anything to that old bat. I saved her life like 2 weeks ago. Naruto's shout was completely ignored as Tsunade beamed at Sakura. Marvelous, Sakura. You might be in for a promotion if you keep a level head like that in the field on this mission. Kakashi, keep an eye on her. I want a report of her actions in detail. Kakashi's eyes smiled while Sakura blushed and looked away. Naruto stepped forward towards Shikaku and Tsunade. Speaking of, Am I getting promoted anytime soon? I just found out that Shikamaru was promoted. You were promoted, answered Shikaka flatly. Naruto blinked. Was anyone planning to tell me that? The rest of his team was equally as stumped by that. Of all the... muttered Tsunade. Jiraiya was supposed to inform you of your promotion. It was when you were sent to bring me back. I have the records to show for it somewhere, she said while gesturing to 3 massive piles of paper off to the side of the room. Oh, hummed Naruto. He told me a lot of stuff about what's expected of someone that's in S-class, so it must have slipped his mind. Then I will inform you, you've been made Jonin. Effective, like a month ago, Tsunade said lamely. Naruto sighed comically. Okay, that wasn't as exciting as I was expecting. Also Jonin? He asked, surprised. The third nodded. I do not believe we would be putting you in charge of any large operations anytime soon. Not until you get some more experience leading teams on assignments. Shikaku and the elders believed that it was a formality to name you Jonin. We agreed when learning of their decision. Let's move on to why we're here, Tsunade said while gesturing to Shikaku. Shikaku, for those of you who don't know, is the Jonin commander and chief strategy advisor to the Hokage. She introduced the scared Nara clan head. Shikaku stepped forward. Nice to meet you, Mr. Uchiha, Ms. Harino. You both attended the academy with my son. I've heard quite a bit about you both, he said kindly. Now, the mission that Team 7 has been selected for is search and destroy. We are sending you forth to back up Lord Jiraiya in routing Orochimaru and his forces' root and stem. Kakashi is the foremost tracker we have that has a combat efficiency for this mission, as well as his Black Ops experience, making him perfect to work in conjunction with Alpha Squad. Shikaku briefed, while the man in question nodded. Naruto, you are one of the few we have that can take on Orochimaru. This will make it so the forces we have can cover more ground rather than Jiraiya being stretched thin in the Land of Sounds. Sasuke and Sakura are to provide combat assistance and backup. Sakura hummed. I take it, Lord Jiraiya will continue as is while we work as a team in another part of the Land of Sound? Kakashi-sensei can follow the trails and then we have Naruto if we run into Orochimaru. Tsunade smiled. Indeed, you will be kept in contact with Jiraiya by the use of summon messages. Jiraiya and Alpha Squad have cleared approximately 60% of the country. Team 7 will begin in the territory on the western corner. There you will follow any trail you find. Any updates on the location of Orochimaru will be relayed to you via toads from Jiraiya. Naruto nodded. Got it. Basically ran around the Land of Sound until we found him. One question, what if he's already abandoned the country? It seemed the obvious choice. Why would the snake want to defend a country he didn't have much use for anymore? Clearly he only took control to build forces to invade the Leaf. That is also something we're heavily considering, Shikaka said with a frown. Your reports of Orochimaru joining, or rather rejoin the Akatsuki, means that he has immensely dangerous allies and his ties to the country are even less so than before. Worst case, we take any and all strength Orochimaru had within Sound Country so he can't return. Well, then we should address the issue of this mission with that in mind, Naruto said seriously, getting everyone's attention. Orochimaru was working with Kisame Hashigaki and Itachi Uchiha. If we run into him, then those two will likely be there. Sasuke's Sharingan instinctively activated his brother's name. Kakashi's eyes hardened as well. The third and Shikaku grimaced while Tsunade took a deep breath. Naruto, started Tsunade, making sure to lock eyes with Naruto. If you are to face off with Itachi Uchiha again, can you win? Naruto hummed as he seriously thought about it. If Itachi remained the same as before, yes. However, I'll have to admit that he's not dumb. He'll likely have thought of new ways to come at me since we last fought. It'll be a bloody fight. Sakura turned to him worriedly. You think you'd lose? Naruto's 6 eyes flared and he grinned at everyone in the room. I'd win. Far off in Sound Country, a small group of individuals were meeting. Orochimaru was smirking at his companion, Itachi Uchiha. So Itachi, what do you think of my ideas? Sanin asked happily. Itachi glared at the man with his Mangekyo Sharingan. If you spoil Sasuke before he's become useful for me, I will turn that brain you cherish into mush. Your pathetic curse mark is nothing more than a drug that destroys the mind of those who wield it. I will be sure not to spoil him, Orochimaru said with a smile. I just want to make sure that you understand that I will be taking his body and eyes as my own. I desire the eyes of the Uchiha. It is only Lord Pain's word that is keeping you alive, but even that will not stay in my hand forever. Sasuke has a role to fulfill. Stay out of my way. Orochimaru's poker face was good enough that he had no tells, showing how nervous he was at having an opponent like Itachi against him once more. He'd never forgotten the trivial way that the Uchiha had handled him before. Are you two having fun? A grinning Kisame asked as he entered the room. He was bandaged up but otherwise fine. Not yet, Kisame, but now that you are here we can begin, Orochimaru said with a smile. As you both know, my country is being attacked by my former teammate and a squad of ANBU Black Ops. Likely Rho or Alpha. I would greatly prefer to kill them and keep my hold over this land. With that in mind, we should deal with them. Kisame's grin turned feral. I too would like to kill that old toad. Itachi, however, had to be the voice of reason. Jiraiya is a very powerful opponent. I do not believe, unless outnumbered, we can expect anything better than mutual destruction in a one-on-one confrontation. Even I have no real counter to his sage. Yes, grimaced Orochimaru. I will seek out Jiraiya with my summons. If we know where he is, we can take out the ANBU without issue. Once he's alone, or at the very least without a regiment of ANBU backing him, we should be able to deal with him quite soundly. Just tell me where I need to go. Kisame said with a wave of his hand. I'll let the two of you do all the strategizing. I don't care for it. And if Jiraiya gets back up? Asked Itachi, not even bothering to voice the name of who he meant. Orochimaru and Kisame grimaced. Then we killed that little twerp. Remember what Leader Pain said? The Shark Man said with a frown. And that will work? Asked Orochimaru to Itachi. You've experienced his infinity jutsu. Do you think that will work? Itachi took a deep breath. The logic behind it is sound. However, knowing this, Naruto is far less experienced than us, yes, but he is very adaptable and highly capable of learning on the fly. We will not have many opportunities to take him off guard with this nullifying field. Orochimaru smirked as he eyed the scroll containing notes and formulas. Ah, what a fascinating creation. Domain. Chapter 11. Arrival into the land of the sounds met Team 7 with the wildly lackluster landscapes and populace. Or lack of populace, rather. The war, if it could be called that, had pushed many of the non-ninja out of the country, seeking refuge in the surrounding countries that didn't have one of the great five nations as an enemy. Naruto felt that the air in this country was different. Perhaps not the air literally, but his instincts were telling him that something was off. The mission to retrieve the old woman to heal the third was too rushed and important for him to really think about much else besides finding Tsunade. But now, Naruto was feeling like something was at the edge of his senses, just waiting for him to let his guard down. He peered at his team to see if he was alone in this feeling. Kakashi was the same as always, lightly informing Sasuke and Sakura of the methods of the ANBU and what to expect in working with them in an active operation. Sasuke was soaking the information up. He had expressed an interest in working in the Black Ops, but hadn't formally said his intention to join Naruto or Kakashi yet. Sakura was listening and adding her own ideas to the operation, though most of her suggestions were received with Kakashi mentioning that they had likely thought of such tactics. Naruto moved forward, a bit away from his team's formation but not so far that he was outside of hearing range, and spread his senses outward. Nothing, he couldn't tell if that was worrying or not, but at the moment he wasn't able to sense any other ninja in the area. His instincts were still telling him to be wary, but he couldn't find a reason to be. He'd stay on guard for now. Anything? Kakashi asked lightly as the others caught up to them. Naruto shook his head. No, it's strange. I feel like someone is watching me but there's no one around. Trust those instincts, Naruto. You've been in too many high-level missions to ignore them. Instructed Kakashi. If you sense anything, let me know. We're nearing the meeting point. Sasuke and Sakura joined them. The four of them continued onward silently for the rest of the journey, all of them making sure to keep an eye sharp to the surroundings for ambushes. None of them forgot their first mission in unknown territory. Zabuza had gotten the drop on them quite spectacularly. After a while they neared the area where they were supposed to meet with their ANBU contacts. At first it looked like an empty clearing, but after a quick glance without his glasses he noticed there was a barrier in the area. Naruto looked at the barrier with his 6 eyes closely. It was a barrier that masked the area within an area of denial and obfuscating illusion. Naturally his eyes could preserve the barrier. It looked like wispy smoke hovering in the air around the small set of tents. It was a smart idea that Naruto never really considered. Of course ANBU wouldn't just rest in the open. We're here, announced Kakashi. Sasuke activated his Sharingan and glared towards the barrier. I see. Standard ANBU protocol for active warzone operations, Kakashi mentioned as he weaved through hand seals. They likely know we are here, but I'll follow protocol. He finished and placed his hand onto the ground. Naruto observed that it was a small pulse of chakra through the earth in a series of bursts. Likely some sort of Morse code. After a moment the barrier was dropped and 3 masked ninjas greeted them. They were tall and well built, but none of the features were that remarkable. Without the masks of the ANBU, Naruto thought they'd look like any other ninja from the Leaf. Their chakra was highly controlled and humming with anticipation, like they were on guard even while looking at them. Captain, greeted the center one, it will be nice to work with you once more. The operation has proceeded much as expected. No sight of the traitors Orochimaru or Kabuto Yakushi. Sound ninja are put to the sword and bases destroyed. 60% of the country has been routed. Sakura reeled back in surprise but didn't speak. Like always, Sasuke didn't have much to add. Kakashi rubbed the back of his neck bashfully. I'm no longer your captain. What is our course of action? Lord Jiraiya is leading the operation we are here to support to cover more ground. If you have any sort of idea on the location of Orochimaru, I'd like to know so I can go take a look. I'm not really interested in being in this country for very long. Naruto added bluntly. None of the ANBU had any reactions, but the one on their left reached for a scroll in his hip holster. The operation was to close in on the center of the country to push anything noteworthy into one location as they fled our capture. Lord Jiraiya is assisting on the western side of the country. Coordination is through toads and summon scrolls. The ANBU presented Naruto with the scroll. Naruto opened the scroll. Sakura and Kakashi leaned over his shoulders to read along. So far, many bases held scientific research recovered by the ANBU for further investigation back in the Leaf. No notable opposition. There has been no sighting of any of the guards present at the invasion. They've found the remaining 3 locations at the center of the country and were waiting on Team 7 before initiating the operation. Got it. So Jiraiya and I are taking a base while Kakashi and you all take another, Naruto said with a grin. I'd bet that old toad is betting he'll find Orochimaru, but I'll be taking that snake's head once and for all. The operation will be as follows. The center operative spoke up again. The commander will be leading the assault on the northernmost base. Captain Kakashi and the rest of Team 7 will accompany that force. Sakura and Sasuke met eyes and nodded while Kakashi hummed quietly. Naruto Uzumaki will be taking the eastern base. The base has been scouted and several of Orochimaru's strange experiments have been seen within. Jiraiya will be taking the western base, briefed the center operative while pulling out a map of the area and gesturing the bases as mentioned. Should Naruto Uzumaki or Jiraiya complete their base, they are the rendezvous at the northern base to assist. Naruto stretched and limbered up. Well, no time like the present. As I said, less time spent here the better. He looked over the map one more time. I'll go ahead and take down my base. Knowing my luck, there won't be anything of value there, and it will be a waste of time. Kakashi glanced at him. Do still show caution. There are no limits to Orochimaru's trickery and depravity. I was there when we raided the bunker in the Leaf 10 years ago. Sasuke frowned and looked over at Naruto. If you find him. Naruto waved him off. He and I will just have a meet and greet. As the blind made to leave, he stopped and sighed. Sasuke, he said, getting the Uchiha's attention, if you let go of all that rage and emotion and just act, you'll be much stronger. Otherwise you'll always be weak. No one said anything else as Naruto sped off into the surrounding forest towards his target. Sasuke sat quietly, stunned, as the words echoed in his head. They were the opposite of the words he's been living by for his whole life. Let's get moving, we have to reach the northern base for the commander to start the operation. Kakashi ordered lightly. Despite no longer being the captain, the 3 ANBU jumped into action. Such was the respect that former captain of Squad Rho ANBU operative Dog still commanded. Sasuke quickly shook off the lingering thoughts of Naruto's words and moved behind Kakashi towards their objective. All the while wondering if his teammate and aggravating friend was right. Naruto, in Sasuke's opinion, wasn't and has never been a liar. When they were younger, he frequently boasted, but that was more for his own self-belief rather than anything else. Nowadays Naruto was more honest than anyone, especially if the truth amused him. Sasuke knew that he wasn't as strong as he needed to exact vengeance on Itachi, but he never really thought about letting the undying hatred in his heart leave him. Are you okay, Sasuke? Whispered Sakura as they traveled through the trees. Sasuke gathered his thoughts and nodded yes. There wasn't much to add beyond that. He knew he had his own issues, but now was certainly not the time to address them. They were on a very dangerous mission, and he needed to be focused here. He and Sakura were being used as a backup unit to Kakashi for the clearing. The commander and 3 other operatives would be the second unit. Their sensei was apparently more than enough on his own, and they were competent enough that Jonin Commander Shikaka Nara and Kakashi agreed that they were ready. Sasuke would be honest and say that Sakura was nearly double her ability from the Chunin exams several weeks ago. She'd been pushed beyond her limits by Naruto and Kakashi. The 6 eyes gave them unparalleled insight into their deficiencies as ninja. His was that he was wasting chakra and time with how he molded his chakra for an enhancements. Sakura's was that she was just far behind and needed extra help to catch up. Now she was a capable combatant with a variety of coverage as a ninja. Nearly an hour of travel, the 6 of them made it to the rendezvous point. The ANBU commander was standing with his back to them as he read a scroll. A small toad at his feet stood waiting. Jiraiya is concerned with the losses. Seems the enemy is actively avoiding him. He will clear the base and meet here quickly, the toad said with a gruff voice. Please proceed with caution. Would you like me to deliver a message back? The commander rolled the scroll up before throwing it over his shoulder to Kakashi, who caught it silently and began reading. "No," stated the commander, "we will continue as planned. 5 of our brothers are dead to the enemy. Are you confident they will be enough?" he said towards Kakashi while gesturing to Sakura and Sasuke. Kakashi closed his eyes sadly, ashamed to lose so many on an operation like this, but unfortunately not unexpected with who we're dealing with. He turned to the commander. "My team will be enough," he assured him with a nod. "Very well, we will begin immediately," stated the commander while gesturing to the 3 ANBU that traveled with them. Sasuke took a breath and steadied himself. Even though he'd been on an A-rank mission, Wave was more him keeping close to Kakashi and hoping to survive. Now he was expected to hold his weight and take the fight to Orochimaru's forces. Next to him he noticed Sakura was gathering her wits as well. "Listen closely," whispered Kakashi to them both as the ANBU in the distance gathered around their commander. "This is going to be different than anything you both have experienced. We will be moving quickly and killing everything in our path." The weight of his words hit the both of them immediately. Sakura was unsteady for a second before hardening herself and nodding. Sasuke didn't find it hard to wrap his head around ending the enemy. He dedicated his life to vengeance after all. "What we encounter will not be human, unless we come across the elite guard, codenamed Sound 4 or Orochimaru himself. They are twisted amalgamations of science and sickness. Killing them is putting them out of their misery." Naruto confirmed that they aren't able to be saved. Sasuke reached behind him and laid his hand on his sword, the newest addition to his arsenal. He was ready. "Let's go." Kakashi nodded and turned towards the north towards the edge of the forest. In the distance was a large field that had rolling hills and through the center a rapid river that sliced through the valley and hills. If one didn't know what lay hidden under the ground, it would look like a picturesque landscape that was worthy of painting. But towards the southern portion of the river in the valley lay a large boulder that was their entrance. Team 7 watched as the commander and his unit opened the seals hiding the entrance. After a moment, part of the boulder faded away, revealing a dark tunnel and staircase leading down. Sasuke and Team 7 hung back, then followed after the ANBU. Inside was a dimly lit hallway with a small torchlight guiding the way. "This is where we separate," announced the ANBU commander. Sasuke watched as the 4 ANBU melted into the ground and moved via earth jutsu deeper into the base. He chided himself for not watching with his Sharingan, as earth was an area he was sorely lacking in, knowing only a few he'd seen used by Kakashi in training. "We will proceed. I'll lead. Sasuke, you have the rear, Sakura the center," commanded Kakashi as they moved deeper into the base. Minutes of travel into the base through what seemed like an endless series of hallways eventually gave way to a wide open room littered with torches on the walls. "Wait," whispered Kakashi before in a heartbeat he pulled a kunai and swiped it into the air next to him. Sasuke, Sharingan triggered, noticed a small needle parried from the kunai and looked towards where it was launched. His eyes, a pair of 2 Tomo's Sharingan, were able to track the trajectory of the needle to see a strange beast whose left hand had dozens of holes that were soon spitting out needles towards them. Kakashi was already moving, blitzing towards the enemy and slashing through its throat, an arc of blood shooting into the air. Sasuke wasn't able to really observe any longer as his eyes caught another beast. It was large, with thick muscles and rock-like fists. Pulling his blade and speeding forward towards his opponent, he weaved around the first attack and lashed out with his blade. The beast roared in agony and slammed both fists into the ground, forcing Sasuke to jump back as the ground cracked. Sakura slammed a hand onto the ground and the area beneath the beast shone with a yellow hue before exploding in a shower of shrapnel. Sasuke wordlessly weaved 3 seals and swiped a hand enshrouded with lightning, releasing a shower of needles of lightning towards the beast still reeling from the earth. Sasuke's eyes saw the beast fall to its knees and shoot forward. He then plunged his blade through the eye of the beast, finishing it off once and for all. "That thing was tough," muttered Sakura as she looked around the room. "Sensei finished 2 of them already." Sasuke flicked the blood off of his blade and nodded, his eyes surveying the area to find any hint of another monster. It was a minuscule flicker of chakra, but Sasuke was able to notice it thanks to his eyes and moved quickly and tackled Sakura out of the way of a massive tail piercing through the group right into the air where Sakura was previously standing. Gathering themselves to their feet, they watched as another monster, longer limbs with wicked claws and a spiked tail. Its body clearly started from a woman, but he'd be hard-pressed to call her human any longer. Sakura shot forward, her fist holding a pinkish hue of her innate chakra. The clawed beast screeched as it met her charge. A massive claw swiped at Sakura, its size nearly that of her torso. A smooth lean back avoided the eviscerating strike. She then followed with a counter to the stomach. Right at the moment of impact, the chakra enhancing her fist erupted, causing a devastating blow of force that compounded with Sakura's incredible, yet strangely natural power. The screeching clawed beast was knocked back half a dozen meters before it dragged itself back forward and shot back towards Sakura. 5 hand seals and a burst of chakra caused the beast to be met with 3 pillars of earth rising from the ground, impacting it in the leg, chest, and head. Sakura tossed a kunai with an exploding tag at the reeling beast that exploded in the monster's face. Sasuke, who was about to jump in when the first blows were exchanged, could only watch the battle with a feeling of pride in his teammate and partner. She'd come a long way from the spectators she was during wave. The screeching beast fell to the ground in a bloodied heap, blood pooling around it as most of its upper torso was blown away in the explosion. They surveyed the area around them for a moment before relaxing their guard. Kakashi, who'd been culling the beasts around the edge of the open room, made his way to them. Great work. Putting 2 of them down at your level is impressive. Your run-of-the-mill Chunin would be hard-pressed to accomplish that without injury. He complimented them with his trademark eye smile. Sasuke felt the low hum of pride at his sensei's words, but he could see the pride in Sakura's eyes. She confided in him that she felt a tremendous shame at her performance during the exams, so to be told she'd performed beyond the standard today meant a great deal for her. How do we proceed from here? He asked. Kakashi peered around the room in response. We'll need to keep moving. If anyone is here, they'll know we are as well after all that. He mused lightly. Sasuke winced. He knew that if the snake was here and not interested in fighting, he'd have likely run off already. That may be a good thing, Sakura said, getting their attention. First, the NBU won't be as loud as us, so they'll likely be even harder to detect, as whoever might be here will focus on us. Second, if Orochimaru is here and doesn't wish to fight, he'll go to another base, and the other 2 have Lord Jiraiya and the Knucklehead in them. Kakashi beamed at his student. Well reasoned. That is precisely why we'll be moving forward through that hallway, he said while gesturing to a dark passage off to the side that was opposite of the way they came in. Now we make noise. The commander already expected us to get the attention, and will be acting accordingly. Sasuke rotated his arm and took a breath. Then let's go. The sooner we clear this area, the sooner we can go back up Naruto in case he needs us. Could we back him up if he needed help? Asked Sakura with a blink. Naruto smashed the head of another beast into the ground. That made 15 since arriving. If he were to bet on it, he'd guess that this base was just a storage for these things. Pup pup pup. Naruto grunted and let out a sigh. His 3 shadow clones popped, and he got the intel that they'd cleared their quadrant of the base, and there was no sign of Orochimaru, Itachi, or anything noteworthy. That would mean that the other 2 bases likely held the snake. He'd need to hurry. He didn't want Jiraiya having all the fun, just his luck, a whole lot of nothing. Hopefully his team weren't in over their head. Knowing the general luck of Team 7 when it came to their missions, he wouldn't hold his breath. Jiraiya grabbed a clawed hand out of the air, twisted the limb till he felt it break, then threw the beast to the floor, caving its skull in from the impact. He'd managed to clear most of the base, and was met with a complete lack of anything or anyone noteworthy. There were roughly a dozen beasts, men and women twisted by the curse mark and wicked science, stomping around waiting for something to spark their ire. Jiraiya made quick work of all of them with a little bit of stealth and force. Nothing flashy, he'd done what he needed to and was ready to rendezvous with the commander. Knowing my luck, Orochimaru's cunning, and just the general nature of a mission like this, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes off the rails soon, Jiraiya said to himself as he employed an earth to quickly leave this underground base to make his way to the northern one. Hopefully it was Naruto that was being ambushed by Orochimaru and his potential Akatsuki allies and not Kakashi and the ANBU. When his own Kakashi could hold his own, he was sure, but not with the 2 greenhorns. Kakashi crept forward deeper into the base. He'd been met with a few more beasts, but far fewer than he was expecting. Counting the 3 he took out, the 2 his students finished, and the ones they encountered while clearing the base, they hadn't even encountered 10 in total, and they have over half the facility cleared. It was becoming a bit unsettling. Almost like he was being led somewhere without much resistance. He turned his eyes towards his students, and noticed that while lightly injured from some hits, they were fine and ready for more. The beasts were a good test of their mettle for sure. Hopefully the only one they'd encounter on this mission. If he had his way, Naruto or Jiraiya were dealing with Orochimaru right now in one of the other bases. The hallway opened up once more, a massive room twice the size of the one they were in earlier. The scale of the open room was similar to that of the building that hosted the preliminaries during the Chunin exam. Lining the walls were more torches filling the room with light. At the far end of the room, gazing at them with a gleeful smile while sitting atop a stone throne, was Orochimaru. On his left and right, his elite guard, the Sound Four. Kakashi chided himself for hoping for an easy mission. Nothing with Team 7 was ever easy. Welcome Kakashi, Sasuke and Sakura. Orochimaru's chilling voice echoed through the room. I'd hoped to have some little ANBU rats to fill my belly. But I'm more than pleased with you 3. I can't say I'm all that pleased to see you, Kakashi said lightly while reading his chakra. He was at about 80% of his full capacity. more than enough for most opponents. Sasuke and Sakura were clearly taken off guard but were standing firm. He looked at them silently for a moment before tilting his head curiously. I have to wonder, teams from the Leaf consist of 4 and I'm aware of who it used to be on your team. Tell me, where is that troublesome foolish blonde? He's dead. Sasuke said flatly. He fell down the stairs and broke his neck. Sakura nodded. He was trying to avoid a black cat that walked in front of him. She said sadly. If Kakashi wasn't in front of one of the most deadly and horrible traitors of the Leaf, he might have shed a tear in pride at their snark. Shameful, really. He added, because why not? Orochimaru was amused by their words if his grin was anything to go by. Is that so? Well then, I suppose it's back to the original plan of harvesting the Sharingan from Sasuke here. Itachi was a bit prickly when I asked for him, you see. He mused as he took a step forward. Orochimaru grinned. Tell me, Kakashi, are you confident in your team facing mine? Are you confident in facing me? If Kakashi was back home in a mission briefing and was asked that question, he'd say no. It wasn't good planning to put him against Orochimaru. Anyone could die to a throat slash, but the odds weren't in his favor. Mix in the 4 guards staring at his students like they were on a dinner plate, and he would have likely said no without much fanfare. But in the actual situation, faced with odds like this and backup he knew was on his way, well, there was only one answer. Of course, why else would we be here? Kakashi said with a nice smile. Chapter 12. Kakashi wasn't one to bluster or lie about his abilities. Barring a select few individuals in the world, he knew that he was able to at least contend with most in a fight. However, with his 2 students with him, both being outnumbered and potentially outgunned, he was less sure he'd be able to completely focus on the rogue Sannin. Orochimaru could smell the hesitation, which made him smile dangerously. My precious Sound 4, Sakanyokan, Taiuya, Jirobo, Kidameru, I wish for you to test the Uchiha and his teammate. I want to know if Sasuke is worthy of being brought into the fold. His eyes, slitted and snake-like, gazed into Sasuke's Sharingan with no hesitation. Sasuke, if you impress me, I will help you unlock the full potential behind my gift and catapult your power to face Itachi. Sasuke glared at the snake, his eyes flaring with his birthright as he fought to withhold a retort, as he knew the Sannin would enjoy anything he said. The Sound 4, after hearing the command of their master, silently moved towards the 2 genin. Their eyes already picking apart their opponents and silently sending signals to each other. Sasuke and Sakura in response were moving closer to one another. Kakashi clenched his fist, knowing that he wouldn't have a chance to really assist, and met Orochimaru's gaze as he knew that he was going to have to keep the largest threat from his students. He wasn't sure where the Anbu were. They should be around here somewhere. I believe you, and I have some unfinished business, Kakashi said with a nice smile, knowing that acting light would annoy the snake more than the serious anger he felt. I also believe you cursed my student, and I am quite upset about that still. No one believed the flighty way he said those words. Everyone knew he was furious. Orochimaru only chuckled sinisterly, not bothering to respond to Kakashi. Silence filled the room, either side seeing if the other would move first. The dark room seemed to close in tighter as the tension skyrocketed. Taiuya, the pink-haired girl, was the one to break the tension, rapidly firing off notes from her flute, casting auditory illusion after illusion towards Sasuke and Sakura. Sasuke was largely unaffected by the illusions as his eyes were able to perceive the chakra attempting to infiltrate his system. Sakura pulsed her chakra in a triple pattern, beating off the illusions as she dashed to the side to avoid a stream of webs fired from the other Sound 4 operative, Kidameru. The spider-like ninja was darting to and fro while firing off streams of thick and dense webs. Sakura was forced to flood her body with chakra to enhance her beyond Chunin speeds to avoid being captured. The 2-headed pale-haired male Sakanyokan and the larger male Jirobo were harassing Sasuke. They seemed to be the short-range focus duo while she got the longer-range ones. Knowing that the biggest threat was the illusions confusing her while she was trying to avoid the webs, Sakura devised a plan. It would be risky, but it was, in her battle-distracted mind, the only option she had. She moved sporadically, throwing shuriken and kunai at every chance she had towards Taiuya, while the spider guy was hidden waiting for his chance. There would be only one moment for her to make a meaningful move. She gazed over to Sasuke. He was busy moving and weaving through the massive strikes of the larger male, while the other would duck in and out of range to attack him from odd angles. She knew that in strict hand-to-hand he would be fine. He had the advantage of the Sharingan. Taiuya, who was constantly streaming together notes this whole time, stopped to take a breath, the first one of the battles so far. Sakura pounced and shot forward. It was a bluff. The moment she moved to attack Taiuya, she was forced to jump back as a stream of webs was shot toward her to tie her up. This did 2 things. It showed where the spider guy Kidameru was, and gave Sakura the opportunity to mold her chakra internally for a in the span of 3 heartbeats while dashing out of the way of the web's Sakura molded chakra internally. Tayuya towards the side moved to re-engage her now that she had her breath back. Then with 2 hand seals, a remarkably low amount for the level of, Sakura slapped her hands to the ground and the entire area around her and her opponents became murky and dense. The stone ground boiling and giving way to a swampy bog that held her opponents in place as they were slowly sunk into the dark depths of the earth release, swamp of the underworld. Sakura screamed internally. It was last taught to her by Jiraiya. Something of his own personal arsenal that he thought she'd be able to make use of. Area denial and incapacitation was something that Sakura needed in her toolbox, and now she had one of the very best for it. While she managed to get both of them in her, it was Kadamura's she wanted. Tayuya summoned 2 massive lumbering beasts that were working to get her out of but she ignored her. Twin kunai in hand, Sakura dashed towards Kadamuru and was poised to slash his throat. Right as she was about to land her attack, he transformed. Kadamuru, the already mutated and deformed male with 8 limbs, had his skin darkened with a dark red hue, his eyes turned yellow and black, and had 2 large horns sprouting from his forehead. With newfound strength, he was able to pull himself halfway out of the bog before sending a wide wave of web toward her to force her away. Sakura cut her losses and tossed 3 kunai toward Tayuya and her beasts, one of which had an explosive note. The 2 lumbering beasts moved in front of her to take the hits. The detonation from the explosive filled the area with dust and debris, obscuring the 2 beasts and Tayuya from sight. Her attention moved back towards Kadamuru, who had shot a string of webs to the ceiling and pulled himself free of the bog. Sakura grit her teeth. She knew she hadn't mastered them, but that still should have been impossible. The cursed seal mutation had granted them superhuman strength beyond what she expected it would seem. Sakura, in a whirlwind of movement, was forced to twist and dive away from 2 lumbering mindless beasts. She saw that instead of illusions, Tayuya's flute was now controlling her beasts, which gave her a bit more breathing room to think of a new plan rather than focus on countering the illusions. Another moment later, she was knocked across the room by a kick to her ribs from Kadamuru, who had taken the opportunity to attack while she was distracted. As soon as she rolled to a stop, she was picked up and thrown by one of the beasts. A silent scream escaped her as she was rag-dolled around the room. On the other side of the room, Sasuke noticed what was happening to her and frantically increased his speed towards the bigger opponent. Jirobo, who was more of a tank than a brawler, held up his arms in defense of the incoming attack. He knew he had no chance to avoid or parry in time. The kick Sasuke was moving with was in fact a feint, as right when Sakanyukan moved to intercept, he twisted and kicked off the twins into the air and threw a rain of shuriken throughout the room, twisting with his momentum. Red Sharingan eyes flared, and his mind and body worked overtime to mimic a maneuver he saw his brother complete at a younger age than he was currently. Jirobo, Sakanyukan, and even the other 2 were caught off guard by the omnidirectional hail of steel that assaulted them. In the moments following, where the 4 were shaking off their injuries and regrouping, Sasuke blitzed forward to a prone Sakura who, while noticeably injured, was still conscious. Blood was pooling from her forehead and left flank from the onslaught. "Can you still fight?" he asked quietly, his eyes tracking the 4 regrouping ninja across the room. Sakura coughed and sat up. "I'm not going to be able to go as fast anymore, but I can support you. The cursed seal boosts them too much," she said warily. Sasuke grunted. "We can manage, they have good teamwork for a group of freaks." A melody filled the room once more and the fighting continued. Kakashi, in a moment of self-reflection, would honestly say he owed Might Guy his life right now. The absurd speed of the Sannin was only just beyond what he faced with Guy in their spars. If he hadn't been forced into their rivalry all these years, he would likely have been killed already. That being said, Kakashi was still coming up short in every other category when faced with the legendary ninja in front of him. Orochimaru's ferocity was so much that it was as if Kakashi had taken his prized possession from him, and he was fighting to get it back. His unorthodox way of moving, slipping in and out of various forms of taijutsu, was so alien to anyone he'd ever fought that Kakashi knew without a Bito's eye he would come up short as well. Lightning crackled to life in Kakashi's fist as he parried a kick, the instant before the chakra would affect Orochimaru. Hazy green chakra filled the snake's leg as Wind Nature chakra encountered and overcame the effects, shredding Kakashi's glove instead. More movements, made intense of a second half filled with feints, others to feint a feint, were made over and over. Kakashi's Sharingan learning and memorizing all of his opponent's movements the instant they were made and allowed him to slowly adapt. Though that was taijutsu. Orochimaru began to weave ninjutsu into his attacks after Kakashi successfully reversed a maneuver, throwing Orochimaru across the room, denting the stone wall he impacted. Tongues of flame sparked to life, swinging and whipping around the room from all 10 of Orochimaru's fingers that were then extinguished by a wall of water created by Kakashi. The water was then rapidly formed into a roaring dragon that was shredded by a thin stream of wings that sliced deep into the wall behind Kakashi. As chakra was molded into his next attack, Kakashi was blasted back by the ground, exploding into a rushing river of mud. That was then hardened into stone. As Orochimaru pierced his skull with a wind blade, he burst into smoke, signifying a clone had taken his place. Orochimaru ducked and flipped back, parried a shadow and laughed. Sinister chakra filled the room before pulsing with enough force to blast away the dust around him. Genjutsu. Orochimaru chuckled sinisterly at the notion. Your illusions, despite coming from the legendary Sharingan, are far too lacking to give me pause. I've faced Itachi's illusions before, yours are paltry in comparison. Kakashi, from his position in the shadow of the room halfway in the ground, would admit that he was no Itachi and moved on. A minuscule pulse of chakra saw the network of exploding nodes he planted while Orochimaru killed his clone. A ball of angry red fire erupted, followed by a shower of stone shrapnel where Orochimaru stood. Moments later the smoke cleared away to reveal a disheveled, but otherwise fine Orochimaru who was looking right at him from his hidden spot in the far corner of the room. I'd forgotten almost. The snake mused, after the third Hokage, then that brat, and my teammates, I was getting a bit self-conscious. Killing you this easily is a nice reminder of my strength. Kakashi hardened himself and with Herculean effort kept his focus on Orochimaru and not the hectic battle of his students on the far end of the massive underground room. What happened to the ANBU? Kakashi wondered tersely. Naruto knew that this mission could be filled with the typical Team 7 nonsense. So far, he wasn't wrong. His base was filled with nothing but beasts he'd killed without much fanfare. Now he was finally entering the northern base, and just knew this was where he was supposed to be the whole time. The base was nearly empty. There were signs of battle and dead monsters throughout, showing him that his team and the ANBU made their way through, and deep within he could faintly hear the sounds of fighting. He didn't even bother slowing down as a single beast still prowling through the caves appeared and killed it without even looking at it with a backhand fist empowered by infinity. Moments later he entered the massive room that held the conflict he was chasing. Sasuke was bloody and Sakura was propped up against the wall clutching her ribs and a kunai. Their opponents were similarly bloody, but only one was down, a fat guy he vaguely remembered from the invasion whose head was a couple feet away from his body. In the distance Kakashi was being kicked around by Orochimaru, who looked more interested in playing with his food than finishing it. Not wasting a moment longer he teleported between Sasuke and his opponent, some six-armed freak, and kicked his legs out from under him. Naruto! Gasped Sakura in surprise while Sasuke sighed in relief. Naruto grabbed two of the guy's arms and slammed him face first into the ground, knocking him out, or just flat out killing him, he wasn't sure. Sorry I'm late, he said quietly. Kakashi appeared in a flicker of movement next to Sakura, finally confident in leaving his fight to check on his wounded student. Orochimaru followed behind slowly. No, I don't have the patience for you, Naruto grunted with a large frown. Hands moved into a cross pattern, shadow clone jutsu. 6 clones, all bearing his 6 eyes, burst into existence. In the next moment they shot forward, 2 to each of the strange guards, while Naruto rammed right into Orochimaru in a shoulder check that took the snake off his feet. A moment later a spark of blue burst into existence next to the tumbling Orochimaru, who shot away frantically before the space around the blue chakra collapsed into nothing, leaving a void of stone in its place. Naruto vaguely felt his clones finish the 3 guards. They were already weakened by his team after all. In the distance Orochimaru gathered himself. You're not wasting any time, are you, Uzumaki? His voice was tense. Naruto rolled his eyes. No, I'm just tired of seeing you. I feel like every time I go on a mission it's to deal with you. He pointed both his index fingers at him and 2 spiraling sinister shots flew towards him, both dodged and the ground exploding where they hit. Orochimaru was ready for Naruto, who was flying towards him at absurd speeds, only for at the last moment he teleported to his blind spot and landed a kick to his ribs, sending him to the ground in a crash. Naruto gestured to Orochimaru, then pulled his arm back and clenched his fist. Orochimaru was pulled off the ground and was rocked by a haymaker to his face, then sent crashing back down to the ground, cratering the stone floor. As Naruto was about to finish the fight, his right hand molding a Rasengan for the snake's forehead, he was forced to teleport back as a massive sword swung through the air where he was just standing. Not even a heartbeat later an enormous fireball was flying at him. He would have dodged if his team wasn't behind him. With a single hand seal he flared infinity to stop the in front of him and let it dissipate. Naruto sighed tiredly as the blue-faced shark man Kisame and the emotionless Itachi Uchiha sauntered into the room. He could feel the anger radiating off of Sasuke behind him and the trepidation from Kakashi. I was wondering if you two would be here or if Jiraiya had dealt with you. Kisame growled. He'll get his. You're our focus for today. Naruto took a deep breath and threw his glasses off his face. He could tell that Kisame was back in fighting shape and Itachi was at his 100% as well. Both were annoying opponents at the best of times, but he was going to have to deal with all 3 of them on his own. Itachi stepped forward, His place at Kisame's side was filled in by Orochimaru. His eyes weren't in their Manjikyu form but rather the normal Sharingan. They looked eyes, and Naruto noticed that he didn't even bother trying to ensnare him into an illusion. We've prepared for you. I know that the time since we've last battled you've likely improved your abilities. Itachi then started gathering chakra into his chest and skull. Our leader has provided us with a technique that will eliminate you. Goodbye Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. Naruto tensed. He could see the chakra working through Itachi's body. It was unlike anything he'd ever witnessed. A mixture of raw chakra and a form of barrier mixing and mingling. Naruto charged up a red and shot it towards him, but Orochimaru and Kisame were able to block it. Seeing that range wouldn't work, he teleported in. At the last moment he realized that was exactly what Itachi was waiting for. Both of Itachi's hands curled into a crude and different hand seal Naruto didn't recognize. His chakra, rather than a release and execution of a like normal, was as if it exploded into the world around them. Naruto took in every minute detail as it happened, each detail committed to his memory. Domain expansion, damnation of duty, intoned Itachi as the chakra exploded and ensnared Naruto and Itachi in an empty void of blackness. Naruto's eyes took into the details further. Barrier after barrier all harmoniously acting together in a tapestry of effects. Something so genius Naruto would even go so far to call it divine, maybe was too small of a designation. Chakra from Itachi was enhanced, chakra from Naruto was hindered, from Naruto seemed tougher to use and his infinity no longer worked. It was as if he was being sent elsewhere, still active but not on him. Then the void changed, a barren street with empty homes on either side of them. A massive red full moon in the sky illuminated them both. The air was stale, and no noise was able to be heard from outside this barrier. Naruto even noticed that within the houses on either side of them had puddles of blood on the floors barely visible from the street. It was nearly 2 seconds from when Naruto teleported in front of Itachi to now being within his. Here I'm in control. Domain expansion robs the opponent of their strength and bolsters my own, said Itachi as he gestured to Naruto. Now, you cannot avoid this. The eye placed in the domain will always hit. Tsukuyami. Naruto tried to avoid it, but it was instant. There was nothing he could do. His infinity was gone, and his eyes only told him that the very world of this domain tethered to him. There was nothing to dodge, it just hit him. The environment didn't change, but Naruto was now crucified on a cross and black flames were surrounding him. Itachi appeared in front of him, but he was upside down standing on nothing but air. A moment later a blade pierced Naruto's stomach. Then another and another. Dozens of blades, maybe hundreds. Naruto held the scream back. Maybe he took only one blade or maybe it was 1,000, but the pain eventually got him. He screwed his eyes shut and tried to think. Another blade. He knew how they formed, a hunch on how it worked from his observations. Another blade. If he could try and break it. Blade to the leg? Naruto took a breath and focused inward. Blade through each of his arms. Agony took over Naruto as he tried to formulate a plan as blade after blade stabbed into his body. When Itachi captures Naruto into the massive ball of black chakra, none of the others in the room moved. They just looked at the Akatsuki's trump card against Naruto with trepidation. Kisame and Orochimaru eyeing it critically for any weakness while Kakashi frantically looked at it with his Sharingan trying to figure out what to do next. It was a scream from Sasuke that broke all their attention away from the domain as he screamed in fury. His sword was crackling with lightning energy as he streamed his Chidori through the blade itself and shot forward. No one expected his action, so even the incredible speeds of Kisame and Orochimaru were enough to stop him as he stabbed the domain with his blade. While it didn't pierce, it just managed to crack the surface slightly. At the same moment Kisame was blasted through the wall to their right by a Geta-clad foot courtesy of Jiraiya. The hell is that? Jiraiya asked aloud as he looked at the massive barrier domain. Orochimaru readied himself and smirked. Right on time, fool. Uzumaki is being taken care of by Itachi as we speak. You're next. Jiraiya snorted. Don't count that brat out just yet. He doesn't know what the word quitting means, he said confidently. Line break. Naruto, breathing haggardly as blood fell from his body onto the ground beneath him. Itachi stood over him with a blade lit aflame with black fire. Naruto knew that if the blade hit him, it was over. He would become a vegetable mentally or close to it. He was sure his healing would keep him from outright dying. At that same moment a flash of chakra entered the domain, if only for a part of a second. Both Itachi and Naruto recognized it as Sasuke's chakra trying to pierce the domain. It was the lapse of concentration for that brief instant that allowed Naruto to make a desperate move. Itachi huffed at his brother's actions, useless as it was. He turned his gaze back to Naruto and grit his teeth. Naruto's chakra was moving in a pattern he'd not seen in their previous battle. This should work. I think, Naruto said in a raspy, blood-filled voice. as he activated blue and yanked himself through the domain to the edge where Sasuke's blade impacted. Though the domain expanded endlessly, he knew the edge was right here. Naruto didn't know or care if it would work, it was his only chance. Itachi stabbed Naruto a half-dozen more times, pinning him to the ground. Naruto chuckled and spat blood. He didn't need to be able to move for this. Itachi, not knowing what the blonde was planning, knew he needed to finish this now and moved to stab Naruto through the chest. Naruto at the same moment sends a pure non-concentrated blast of red straight down to the floor of the domain. Right at that moment Itachi's blade pierced his heart. The large black ball of chakra shattered, breaking up the fighting in the large room. Kisame was already sporting some bruising, and Orochimaru took this chance to regurgitate a new body while Jiraiya jumped back to Kakashi and the others. As the domain fell apart, Itachi was shown standing over Naruto with several blades of chakra piercing all over his body, one through his heart. Itachi pulled out his sword and stepped over Naruto while turning to the rest of the Leaf Ninja. He nearly broke out. He said to Kisame and Orochimaru's shock, "Let's finish here, we've accomplished the mission." Kakashi and Jiraiya looked at the prone form of Naruto in shock. Either of them believed such a thing was possible. Not since Naruto awakened the six eyes did they think he was capable of really losing one-on-one anymore. Even against Itachi in their last fight he was holding his own well enough and had only improved since then. Sakura grit her teeth to hold back tears. She didn't think the blonde would die, not like this, not here. He was so strong, he was the team's heart. She took a deep breath and pushed herself to her feet. If Naruto was to die here, then she'd take one of these bastards with her. Next to her, there was a new change happening. Sasuke stared with dead eyes as his brother callously stood over his best friend with blood pooling around his body. His mind flashed back to the compound that night, his parents, his family, his cousins, all of them. Now it was Naruto. Sasuke's shock turned to despair, which as he turned his eyes to his brother, the architect of all his life's problems, that despair gave way to an unending wave of pure hate. Sasuke's Sharingan morphed, the three tomos spun and changed into a new pattern similar to a flower. His chakra hardened in his body, and he grit his teeth so hard he may taste blood. The next instant Itachi was engulfed in black flames courtesy of Sasuke, snapping Kakashi and Jiraiya out of their stupor. Jiraiya took the opportunity to rush the two behind Itachi while Sasuke blitzed forward towards Itachi, who was manipulating the black flames off of himself with his own manjikyu. Kakashi followed behind his student, running through plans in his head on how to deal with Itachi if he pulled that same out that he used on Naruto. Sakura, knowing she was outclassed, rushed for Naruto's body and pulled him away from the fighting. The sounds of violence filled the room once more as the Leaf Ninja fought with more ferocity than the Akatsuki thought them capable of. Sakura could only pray that they would kill all of them. Darkness, empty, swirling, unending darkness. Everywhere he looked he saw the fleeting instances of light in a far-off distance slowly being snuffed out by the endless abyss. He wasn't dead. Well, he wasn't dead yet, it would seem. Though he wasn't far off. Naruto felt his surroundings and knew he was within his own mind. He knew his healing wouldn't be enough. He'd never healed anything fatal before, merely injuries. Like Tsunade said, it was an incomplete that put too much risk on him due to the strain on his brain from utilizing pure-natured chakra supercharged by positive chakra was too complex to use by a normal brain. But his brain wasn't normal. He had the six eyes which allowed him to process and analyze information much faster than anyone else, even other ocular wielders. What if that could work? The weakness of his healing is if he dialed it up too much his brain would overheat because the complexity of it hasn't been fully ironed out since he hasn't really had a chance to work on it. But what if he healed his brain? What if he was healing his brain to keep it fresh and at its very peak and used his healing where it was needed at full blast? His healing? No, his everything would be even better if he was always at 100% mental capacity. The darkness was seeping closer. Naruto refocused. He likely only had a few minutes of work to get it working to save himself. Sasuke ducked under a kick from Itachi and responded with a whirl of slashes from his lightning-enveloped sword. Itachi weaved around the attacks and out of nowhere jumped away right as Kakashi smashed through the ground to attack him. Sasuke, his eyes burning with new power, glared at Itachi and felt something else shift. Purple chakra exploded from his core. Kakashi's eyes widened and backed up, while keeping an eye on Itachi. "Very good, little brother," Itachi said as he watched his brother's power come forth. "Shut up!" shouted Sasuke as his eyes started crying blood from the strain. The purple chakra formed into a ribcage around him, then a right arm of bone was formed that swung through the air at blinding speeds. Itachi couldn't move, so he blocked it with his own red flaming ribcage. Itachi looked at his brother's power critically. "This is called Susanoo, or he with the ability to help by all means. It is the greatest power of the Uchiha. Only one of us in our clan's history truly mastered it. Madara Uchiha." The name sent shivers down the spine of Sasuke and Kakashi. It was with this he was able to battle the almighty Hashirama Senju on equal footing during their warring years. Sasuke couldn't speak from the strain, so he continued to glare at Itachi. Kakashi looked at Sasuke then back at Itachi. So this is only achievable with the Manjikyu Sharingan. He spoke. Itachi turned his gaze towards Kakashi. Indeed, though you need both eyes for it. The Manjikyu has an ability for each eye, then the Susanoo for both in harmony. Kakashi hummed, I see. Sasuke growled and the arm flashed forward once again, smashing into a red flaming bone arm courtesy of Itachi's Susanoo. Neither winning the battle of strength. Now that you have these eyes, Sasuke, you should know. You and I will be meeting soon. I will have my battle with you. Once you can actually utilize them, don't you dare mock me! Shouted Sasuke. As he shouted, the Susanoo formed another arm and a large scarf formed around the body that shaped into a hood. Within the dark of the hood were two glowing yellow eyes. On the right arm a crossbow was formed that Sasuke fired at Itachi. Kakashi saw his moment and activated his own Manjikyu ability to try and destroy the arm that moved to intercept the arrow. Itachi increased the power of his Susanoo and formed the Yata mirror to take the attacks head on. Finally Sasuke's body gave out, and he fell to one knee from the strain. Kakashi was similarly weakened from using Obito's eye. Itachi let him go and looked to where his colleagues were battling Jiraiya. The fight seemed to be a stalemate as Kisame wasn't able to use his larger body for fear of hitting him or Orochimaru in this underground hall. Itachi readied the sword he killed Naruto with and moved to attack Kakashi, who was the bigger threat between the remaining ninjas. Kakashi was able to parry the first swing with a kunai, then avoid the follow-ups. Itachi feinted a stab, then grabbed his arm and tossed him through the air into the wall. He parried Sasuke as he attacked him, but without his Manjikyu Sasuke just wasn't able to keep up anymore, and was battered away and thrown across the room towards Kakashi. Itachi began flashing through hand seals and molded his chakra into flame. Kakashi and Sasuke looked up to see a nearly white-hot massive fireball flying right towards them. However, the flames never reached them. The fire stopped right before them, stopped in midair as if held by some supernatural force. Ha 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 ha. The familiar laugh shocked everyone in the room who'd heard it. Even Jiraiya, Orochimaru and Kisame heard it. Kakashi and Sasuke turned around to see a bloody but seemingly uninjured Naruto laughing as he stood behind them holding the fireball in place with his infinity. Itachi! Naruto shouted with a grin. You old bastard! You nearly killed me! He began laughing all over again. Itachi just looked at him with barely noticeable shock. But don't worry, I finally perfected my healing. I mean chakra. No, I mastered my body. My chakra and body. Yeah, that's it. I know it and I have it now. I know what to do and why. That's the most important, Itachi, the why. Naruto explained deliriously. I can do it now. Jiraiya appeared beside him and looked at him worriedly. You okay, kid? Okay? Am I okay? You old bastard, I'm better than ever. I know it now. I know what I need, and why I need it. I can do anything I can feel. The most impossible things are within my grasp. Kisame came flying in and Naruto shot forward with speeds he never achieved before. Even to Itachi and Jiraiya he was nearly impossible to follow. Naruto blocked Samahata with infinity, and with his right hand he made a melon-sized golden Rasengan that he smashed into Kisame's stomach. Immediately after he casually moved to his side to avoid Orochimaru's sword moving to pierce his throat. Naruto weaved and avoided all follow-up attacks with casual ease before blitzing forward and smashing a palm into Orochimaru's stomach, nearly knocking him unconscious. Itachi was trying to formulate a plan of attack. He could try a domain again, but he was dangerously low on chakra and that would put him beyond empty. In his moment of thought he was hit by a red to his chest from Naruto, who teleported to his right and shot a red at the same time, blasting him across the room near to where Orochimaru and Kisame were recovering. I feel it. Yes. Naruto said reverently, it doesn't matter anymore how many of you there are, how strong you are, no, it doesn't matter. Before what I am now, none of you are. I feel it truly now, and before I knew I wasn't. Naruto's chakra, now a golden tint to its natural blue, began emanating off his body as he spread his arms wide. Throughout the heavens and the earth, I alone am the honored one. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoy it. Turn on that bell notification. Like, subscribe and comment down below. And also check out the other videos I have created and enjoyed it. See you guys next video.